there, I'm Kayla and welcome back to my channel. In this video, we're exploring the weird and wild world of seaside tourism in Regency Britain. So for my first video, I had this idea of looking into the inspiration behind Sanditon. The new season came out this year and I really wanted to kind of do a deep dive in whether or not Jane Austen had based Sanditon on a real place, whether she herself had visited a seaside town like Sanditon, and whether or not there was any people that inspired her to write her last but sadly unfinished novel. If you'd like to know about the inspiration behind Sanditon and some of the history into seaside resorts in the Regency era, check out my video. So while I was making that first video, I found that there was some interesting things that people believed about water, about consuming water, about getting in water, about bathing in hot temperatures and cold temperatures, and putting sea salt and crab eyes together and taking it as ointments and pills. And so I thought, goodness, we need a video just on the obsession with water in the Regency era. It was a huge cultural movement at the time to go to seaside resorts or visit spa towns like Bath and to consume and get in water in a number of different ways that people really believed was helping a multitude of illnesses. So I'm a heritage and tourism researcher. I'm really interested in the ways that people have traveled in the past, how they've depicted tourism areas in guidebooks and travelogues, and how we can improve upon communicating tourism sites today. If you'd like to explore more on historical tourism, period dramas, historical fiction, and whatever else I end up getting up to on this channel, like and subscribe. I don't know about you, but I definitely resonate with those memes that are like, my body judging me when I drink iced coffee instead of water. I feel like so many of us are just out here wondering why we're dehydrated or why we have bad breath or why we have a headache when we're not drinking enough water. Obviously, water is really important. We're made up of like 55 to 60% water, so I know I need to be hydrated more, and yet there's no denying that we need water to live, and it's a vital part of life. However, in the Regency era, water wasn't just something that you obviously needed to drink to live. It was magical somehow. Water was seen as far more medicinal than it is today. In the Regency era, visiting seaside resorts or visiting spa towns like Bath were seen as vital ways to help heal or at least control a number of illnesses both internally and externally on people's bodies. People in the Regency era weren't just going on vacation to the beach in hopes of a little sun and surfing. They were going because they were hoping that it could heal them. As doctors began spreading theories about the powers of water across Europe and the UK, it got to the point where people were drinking seawater, thinking that the salt was helping their bloodstream. From the 1700s onwards, visiting seaside resorts or spa towns was much more about improving your health than relaxation or rejuvenation, but let's be honest, there was plenty of touristy things going on. So I'm sure you Jane Austen fans already know, but Bath was the most popular spa town in the UK in the Regency era, and two of Jane Austen's novels, Northanger Abbey and Persuasion, feature Bath as a setting. So people started to travel to the area because there were old Roman baths, and the mineral waters from those baths were seen as medicinally beneficial if you drink them. But spa towns like Bath morphed into highly trafficked tourism areas. It had a pump room where you could go and drink the mineral water. There were shops, theaters, coffee houses, chocolate stores, assembly rooms, ballrooms. There were concerts, fireworks, public breakfasts. When I was researching this, I was like, what is a public breakfast? And I want to look more into that, because if that's just some like really big brunch, like maybe like a garden party, but like brunch where you walk around with like amazing waffles and muffins, sausages, and like a chocolate fountain for fruit in a garden, and that is a public breakfast. Wouldn't that be amazing? Anyways, if that's what a public breakfast was in the Regency era, can we bring them back? Historian John Brewer said of Regency Bath, crowded with valetudinarian. I have no idea what valetudinarian is. Crowded with valetudinarian politicians, retired soldiers, gouty squires, and rich widows taking its medicinal waters, visited by mothers and daughters in pursuit of suitable husbands, and frequented by young men in search of eligible heiresses. It was a city of quackery, leisure, and intrigue. Sometimes we tend to think more on the social side of Bath, perhaps because of Jane Austen's writing. Scenes like when Anne sees Captain Wentworth at a concert one night can make us think more on the social aspects of the spa town. However, the term quackery is a very apt description for the town of Bath because of how big this water obsession was for tourists coming into the area. So this obsession with water seemed more akin to a health fad than a true medical discovery that was backed by robust research and science. From the mid-1600s, there was an obsession with water, drinking mineral water, bathing in salt water, dunking in hot and cold baths, and doctors were prescribing a bunch of rules for when you could get in the water, what times of day, what times of the year. Alongside the mineral waters that people were drinking in places like Bath, doctors also began prescribing salt water and sea bathing for tumors, chronic illnesses, skin conditions, chronic pain, arthritis, STDs, mental health problems, tuberculosis, and a host of other stomach problems because they did not have Tums. Pamphlets and books began circulating from medical professionals who were theorizing that water was almost extraordinary. In 1735, Peter Shaw wrote that seawater was somehow heavier than fresh water, and when people bathed in it, that its heaviness would help with circulation in the body, and it would enter the bloodstream through soaking in it in the sea, which would help with blood circulation. The most popular sea bathing theorist, Dr. Richard Russell, claimed that soaking in water had a lot of benefits from the minerals and sea salts and from underwater creatures and submarine plants that acted as purification agents through the body. His book became famous in the 18th century, and doctors around the UK began prescribing time by the sea and in the water across the UK. Small, sleepy fishing villages were quickly turning into seaside resorts where people would come to stay for weeks or months out of the year to partake in the baths and to get in the sea, and to try out bathhouses, which had heated and cold baths, which were all the rave in the Regency era. There was a lot of money to be made by entrepreneurs at these seaside towns. They were looking to build large hotels and assembly rooms and guest houses so that people could come and stay at these seaside towns for long periods of time. Places like Brighton became so popular so quickly that people would show up by the thousands to find accommodation for the summer, and there was none to be had. This prompted other seaside towns like the nearby town of Worthing, which Jane Austen visited in 1805, to try and grow to accommodate the amount of people wanting to come and stay at the seaside. Doctors were also making a lot of money off of this water obsession. Doctors were promoting products and services like bloodletting, seawater and donkey milk, tonic pills, crab eyes, immersion bathing, and simply just breathing sea air. Look. If seawater could cure my rosacea, I'll be honest, I'd try it. I would, but it's not gonna. Maybe I need some time in the seaside air. Doctors began promoting bouts of time in seaside air as many cities were filled with smoke pollution from coal. Doctors could be very specific on where they prescribed people to go for seaside air. Some would claim that the air in areas like the south of England was more beneficial for people than air in Portugal or France. They believed that soils produced different types of air. They thought that topography played a role in how good the air was. So if there were mountains somewhere, if there were swamps, that could affect the local air. While doctors were on the right path with this particular thing, it's obviously important to be breathing in clean air. It was more about relieving symptoms at that time than curing them. So people would be going to the seaside on vacation for a period of time and then going straight back into the polluted air and having the same symptoms over and over again. And obviously, sea air could not cure more serious respiratory issues like tuberculosis. Doctors would write guides, books, or articles about specific seaside locations like Brighton, which would really ramp up the tourism in the area. Royal visits also brought a lot of buzz to these areas. George IV and his daughters Charlotte, Amelia, and Augusta visited various seaside towns, and they brought with them trusted royal doctors. And this really legitimized this water obsession. If the royal family and their trusted doctors are sea bathing and ingesting salt water as a way to cure a number of ailments, then shouldn't I? There were not the precautions that there are today around people soaking in really hot water, so there weren't precautions around pregnant women or young children or people with heart issues. So there was nothing like that back then to say, hey, maybe if you're pregnant, don't get in a really scalding hot bath. Jane Austen and her family prescribed to these practices. In 1804, she partook of the waters in Lyme Regis in the hopes that it would cure fever and indisposition. Her sister Cassandra partook of the waters in Worthing, and her brother traveled to Bath, hoping that the waters there would help him with his gout. Sadly, some of the more general benefits that we can see by going to a spa or going to the beach, such as getting some extra vitamin D or helping with stress or some time for relaxation, was enough for people in the 1800s to believe that it was curing eczema or tuberculosis or an STD. The truth was that people had poor diets with not enough vegetables or minerals that would lead to things like gout or chronic constipation. Some people had undiagnosed mental health problems that the seaside obviously wasn't going to be able to cure. And being away from polluted air made people think that there was something special about seaside air, when really it was just a lot less polluted. By the late 1800s, it was still seen as beneficial to go to the seaside for fresh air. However, consuming a lot of salt water had died out by this period. I wonder why. By the Victorian era, the railways made it far easier for people to travel to seaside resorts or spa towns, and the emerging middle class began buying vacation homes and spending more time by the seaside for leisure purposes. On the one hand, the medical industry could be seen as very predatory during this period. There were a lot of doctors, entrepreneurs, and remedy sellers who were trying to capitalize on this obsession with water in the Regency period. On the other hand, I'm sure that there was just doctors and people desperately searching for a cure and going with the best information that they had at the time. And like I said, some doctors were in the right direction, wanting people to have clean air and clean living conditions. And let's be honest, I can't judge too much because we're still just as weird. So I used to watch documentaries about this kind of thing and hate when people would be like, oh, look, I want to compare this or that to where you can tell that these people were just like us. I think of stuff like this and I'm like, they were guzzling salt water and goat's milk like it was an espresso. Like, we're not the same. But then I've lived through a global health event myself, and I think about the ways that people have responded to that, and I go, maybe people never change. Author Paula Byrne researched what Jane Austen's life would have been like while she was staying in Bath, and she found that local newspapers were inundated with ads for cures for things like gout or sprained ankles, bruises, teeth whitening, and women's ailments, whatever that means. And when I think about today, the amount of ads and information that we're inundated with dietary supplements and articles on chocolate being good one day and bad the next, and eating plans and exercise plans, face shaving and face rolling and apple cider vinegar, medical TV ads over and over and over. The list goes on and on for the ways that we as humans are constantly looking for new ways to improve our health. Thankfully, there are so many medical advancements today that can address a lot of the issues that people had in the 1800s. I wish those poor people didn't have to drink goat's milk and seawater. I can't get over that one. And let's be fair. People in the Regency era did go to seaside resorts and spa towns to help improve their health. But they also went there to sunbathe and relax, shop, to be entertained, to maybe find a wife or a husband, to socialize, and for many, to enjoy a seaside vacation. And if there's anything that I am happy to carry on into the 21st century, it is some relaxation and rejuvenation and not salt water and crab eyes. No crab eyes. Oh, but you know what? Those public breakfasts. I would do those public breakfasts. And you know what? I would do a ball or two. I would love going to a ball during my beach vacation. Do we want to start doing balls during our beach vacations? Would anybody else? Okay, I gotta stop. Would I go to a Regency seaside resort? No, never mind. No. Thanks for watching this video. Be sure to check out my other video on the inspiration behind Sanditon. If you're a Bridgerton fan, my husband and I recap episodes of Bridgerton, which you can find here on the channel. Season 1 and Season 2 are here in playlists, or you can listen to them on any of your favorite streaming services. Goodbye!